Welcome back to our news bulletin. Spain has recorded 301 deaths from the coronavirus in the last 24 hours, increasing the toll to nearly 24,000. In Iran, 71 more people died in the last 24 hours, with the tally reaching 5,877. Meanwhile, more than 1,100 people died in the United States overnight, pushing the country's total to nearly 56,000. Worldwide, the number of deaths from COVID-19 has crossed 211,000, with over 3 million people infected. Further details in this report.
The number of new cases and deaths from the coronavirus is starting to decline in most of the hard-hit countries. U.S. President Donald Trump says he will consider easing travel restrictions on Europe, depending how the continent responds to COVID-19. He says he foresees schools soon welcoming students back as the U.S. states begin to ease lockdown restrictions.
We continue to see encouraging signs of progress. Cases in New York area, New Orleans, Detroit, Boston, and Houston are declining. Denver, Seattle, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Nashville, Indianapolis, and St. Louis are all stable and declining. All parts of the country are either in good shape, getting better.
Elsewhere, Australia's most populous state of Sydney has relaxed some restrictions on movement and open beaches. New Zealanders also queued for fast food takeaway after being freed from a month-long lockdown. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern advised people to limit non-essential travel, shifting the coronavirus alert level down a notch.
With more people going back to work today, we need to be even more vigilant at level 3 to prevent any inadvertent spreading of the virus. We must continue to stay home where possible, including for work and education. Please stay regional and limit non-essential travel. And even though you can expand your bubble, keep it as small as possible and exclusive.
Meanwhile, Russia has overtaken China in the number of infections as its tally climbed over 87,000. China's northwestern Shaanxi province reported 20 new imported cases, saying the patients had arrived from Moscow.
Meanwhile, Pakistan has recorded its highest number of daily deaths from the new coronavirus as 20 people lost their lives overnight. The death toll in the country has risen to 301 with over 14,000 infections. The health ministry said 3,233 people have so far recovered, while 111 patients are in critical condition. It said over 157,000 tests have been conducted across the country, with nearly 6,500 in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, the National Disaster Management Authority said Pakistan will soon attain the capacity to conduct 40,000 tests per day. NDMA Chairman Lieutenant General Mohammad Afzal confirmed this after receiving 18 tons of medical equipment from China. In another news, Kabul says the Taliban have killed 4 members of the Afghan National Police in an attack in eastern Paktia province. Presidential spokesperson Dawa Khan Munapil said the group attacked the security personnel when they were breaking their fast. The Taliban have claimed responsibility for the attack. In a tweet, spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid said the fighters killed 1 officer. Russia says it remains committed to a diplomatic process in Libya after military leader Khalifa Haftar moved to seize control of the country. In a statement, a Kremlin spokesman said Russia believes there is no other way to resolve the conflict in Libya. Yesterday, Russia's ally Haftar declared the 2015 UN-brokered political agreement in the country invalid. As part of the agreement signed in Morocco, the UN-recognized Government of National Accord was formed to manage the transition process in Libya. However, Haftar and his political allies tried to prevent this agreement from entering into force with his initiatives on the ground. Since 2014, Libya has been split between areas controlled by the UN-recognized government in Tripoli and territory held by Eastern forces in Benghazi. Last April, Haftar's forces launched an offensive to take Tripoli, which led to chaos and bloodshed. UN envoy to Yemen Martin Griffiths has voiced concerns over the declaration of self-rule by the Southern Transitional Council in Aden city. In a statement, Griffiths called for speeding up the implementation of the Riyadh agreement with the support of the Saudi-led coalition. Griffiths said the latest turn of events is disappointing, especially when Aden and other areas in the south have yet to recover from flooding. The UN envoy said Riyadh agreement will deliver benefits to people in the south by improving public services and security. He said the stakeholders must put their differences aside and work for the Yemeni people. The Palestine Liberation Organization has briefed Sweden's foreign minister and Belgium's diplomat on Israel's illegal annexation plan. In a tweet, Secretary General Saeb Erekat said he held comprehensive telephonic conversations with Anne Lind and Bernard Quinton. Erekat said he called for an immediate halting of Israeli settlements in the West Bank. He urged the two officials to exert pressure on Israel to keep up with the UN's 1967 borders. On 1st July, the Israeli parliament will vote on the annexation of large swathes of the West Bank on the basis of the US Mid-East plan. The Arab League says it will convene an urgent virtual meeting on Thursday over Israeli plans to annex parts of the occupied West Bank. The League's Deputy Secretary Hussam Zaki said Arab foreign ministers will discuss ways to support Palestine to help it confront Israel. Zaki said the ministers will discuss providing political, legal and financial support to the Palestinian leadership to confront the Israeli plans. It comes after Israeli leadership signed a deal for a unity government. The arrangement could accelerate Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's plans to annex parts of the West Bank in the coming months. In Lebanon, a protester was shot and killed during unrest in the northern city of Tripoli overnight. Demonstrators, angered at the plunging currency and inflation, clashed with security forces in defiance of a coronavirus lockdown. The 26-year-old protester's death was confirmed by his family. In a statement, the army said a firebomb was thrown at one of its vehicles in Tripoli. It added that a hand grenade was hurled at a patrol during rioting, injuring 2 soldiers. The facades of several banks were smashed, with at least one set on fire. The Banking Association declared all banks in Tripoli shut from today, saying banks had been targeted in riots. Meanwhile, in the capital Beirut, footage showed protesters running from army officers as a wall of burning tires blocked the street. Turkey says its forces conducted the 6th joint patrol with Russian troops on a key highway in Syria's northwestern border. In a tweet, the defense ministry said troops from the 2 countries carried out land and aerial inspections in Idlib. The patrolling exercises are part of an agreement brokered between Turkey and Russia on 5th March in Moscow. The presidents of both countries agreed to a ceasefire and military patrolling to ensure the truce in the region. Furthermore, Turkey says it has killed 2 militants of the Kurdistan Workers' Party in airstrikes during a counter-terrorist operation in northern Iraq. The National Defense Ministry said the military carried out operations in the Hakkok region. The ministry said Turkey will continue to destroy weapon caches and shelters used by the terrorists. It said over 400 Kurdish militants have been killed in northern Iraq over the past 5 months. Turkey holds the PKK responsible for the deaths of some 40,000 people in a 30-year conflict. The Iranian armed forces have warned that any provocative move by US forces will be met with a powerful response. It said presence of US and its allies in West Asia, especially the Persian Gulf, has been the source of insecurity for regional countries. In a statement, Tehran said high-risk behaviors which make shipping in the region insecure have started since US arrival in the region. The forces reiterated Iran has never initiated and will never start any conflict in the region. They said in case of any clashes, US force and its allies will be responsible for instability in the Gulf. The armed forces advised the US and its allies to abide by Iran's regulations as well as international laws. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani has sought the help of his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in ending US sanctions. In a telephone conversation, the 2 leaders discussed regional security, Tehran-Washington ties, and the fight against COVID-19. In a statement, Rouhani's office said US curbs on Iran undermine security, peace, and stability. It said the security of the region and its waterways is important for Tehran, but Washington is making the Persian Gulf unstable. Meanwhile, China's state media said President Xi expressed condolences to the Iranian government over coronavirus, while also reaffirming the bilateral relationship. It said Xi vowed to strengthen collective preventive measures against the pandemic with Iran. The US says it is probing if China could have stopped the spread of the novel coronavirus outbreak. Talking to reporters at the White House, President Donald Trump said the virus could have been stopped at the source. Earlier, Trump warned Beijing of consequences, saying there was a big difference between a mistake that got out of control and something that was done deliberately. Now, Trump says his administration is conducting serious investigations.
Ways you can hold them accountable. We're doing very serious investigations, as you probably know. And we are not happy with China. We are not happy with that whole situation because we believe it could have been stopped at the source. It could have been stopped quickly and it wouldn't have spread all over the world. And we think that should have happened. So we'll let you know at the appropriate time, but we are doing serious investigations.
The BRICS Association, comprising of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, will convene for a video conference on coronavirus today. Russia will chair the meeting of foreign ministers who will analyze how the pandemic and its economic fallout is affecting international relations. In a statement, the Russian Foreign Ministry said top diplomats will exchange views on joint measures to combat COVID-19. It said the foreign ministers will exchange ideas to overcome the economic and social consequences of the pandemic. The meeting's participants will also touch upon the strategic partnership between the BRICS countries. We have a lot more coming up right after this short break, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Nearly 51 million people worldwide are internally displaced due to conflict or disaster, with COVID-19 posing a new threat. In its report, the Internal Displacement Monitoring Center says about 33.5 million displacements due to conflicts and disasters were recorded in 2019. It said the number of IDPs in 2019 was the highest annual figure since 2012. The report said last year 8.5 million were forced to abandon their homes due to conflict and violence. IDMC said a further 24.9 million people have been displaced by natural disasters such as earthquakes and floods in 2019. It said of the total 51 million IDPs in the world, nearly 46 million have been displaced due to violence and over 5 million as a result of natural disasters. In France, repair work has restarted at the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris after being paused due to the country's coronavirus lockdown. Fire engulfed the 850-year-old building on the banks of the River Seine on April 15th last year. Work is underway to make the site compliant with social distancing rules so work can properly resume. Officials say showers of workers will be modified and changing rooms adapted to reduce the risk of infection. The global coronavirus pandemic forced officials to delay the planned start of reconstruction on 23rd March. French President Emmanuel Macron promised to rebuild within 5 years, but work so far has been slow. In Russia, doctors have observed significant improvements in coronavirus patients after transfusion of blood plasma from recovered people. In an interview, Moscow Deputy Mayor Anastasia Rakova said doctors saw no health complications or side effects. Rakova said this kind of treatment is used only for patients in critical condition. Blood plasma transfusion is believed to be one of the most efficient measures to combat the disease in the absence of a vaccine. It is being widely used in the US, Germany, China, and other countries. Over 20 major film festivals around the world have come together to stream free movies on YouTube. It comes after the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted many international events. In a statement, YouTube said it will host We Are One, a global film festival from 29th May. While the festival will stream for free, viewers will be asked to donate to the World Health Organization's COVID-19 Solidarity Response Fund. The event will feature content curated by Berlin, Cannes, Venice, Sundance, Toronto, and Tribeca film festivals, among others. The event will include films, short documentaries, music, comedy, and conversations, and a full schedule will be available soon. Oil prices have crashed again, with US WTI crude plummeting to under $11 per barrel from $20. British Petroleum has also taken a hit of over $4 billion in the first quarter of the year 2020. The prices dropped after US oil fund LP sold all of its WTI contracts. Meanwhile, Brent crude futures fell around 4% to trade at just over $19 a barrel. Risks on the demand side amid the COVID-19 pandemic fallout have reignited fears over the availability of storage capacities. US oil prices have posted a record weekly loss of 32.3% based on the June contract. Global e-commerce sales surged by 8% from 2017 to hit over $25.5 trillion in 2018. At its E-Week event, the UN's Conference on Trade and Development released the latest estimates. The body estimated the 2018 e-commerce sales value was equivalent to 30% of global GDP that year. It said about 1.5 billion people made purchases online in 2018. The trade body said the COVID-19 crisis has accelerated the uptake of digital solutions, tools, and services. The trade body's director, Shamika Sirmane, said the overall impact on the value of e-commerce in 2020 is still hard to predict. European stock markets are trading higher as a slate of strong earning reports from companies outweigh a slump in oil prices. Frankfurt DAX has gained over 0.5% as Lufthansa stocks jumped more than 7.5% over a €9 billion government bailout. London's FTSE 100 and France's CAC 40 is trading nearly 0.5% higher. In the UK, Europe's largest bank HSBC announced that its pre-tax profit fell 48% year-on-year in the first quarter of 2020, while oil giant BP reported a historic loss of over $4 billion in the first quarter. Bucking up, financial services giant UBS reported a 40% increase in its quarterly profit. In Asia, Hong Kong's Hang Seng closed over 1% higher, while Shanghai Composite traded fractionally lower. Now let's look at the weather from around the globe. This is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.news.